Today I'm back on the Sonicware LOFI-12 XT and I wanted to walk you through the chopping or slicing area on this device. I think this is one of my favourite features of this particular unit, and I think it's way more powerful than you'd expect from a sampler that's A, this size, and B, looks this retro. So yeah, the area is pretty powerful, and today I thought I'd just walk you through it. There is one secret about it as well, which I'll show you later in the video, which makes it really useful, so make sure you look out for that. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is assign a sample to pad 1. Now you can see this is already selected. You can go ahead and select the different ones if you want to, the different tracks along the bottom here. I'm going to choose track 1, and you can see there's no sample assigned. We've got a kind of blank screen here. So you press A, and I'm going to use the sample pool to pull in a sample. I've already sampled this in, and I know it's at the bottom of the list, so I'm going to scroll all the way down, and this is the sample that I want. Okay, so let's go ahead and press OK on that, and then load. And there we go, that's loaded in. So we have the sample on track 1 now, and it's nice and easy to get into the chopping area. You just use this SND button. So we're going to go ahead and press that, and you can toggle that. If you press it again, it brings up this screen, and you can see here that all the controls are labeled. They correspond to these 4 dials here, so A voice, B ARP, C 12-bit on or off. I'm going to actually turn that off for this particular video. And then you've got the velocity at the bottom right. So all we need to do is turn the A dial 1 across to the right, and that puts it in slice. And then we're going to go ahead and press slice to go into the slice screen. Okay, so now we've got the sample in the slice area. You can have up to 15 slices, which obviously it would be a little nicer if we had 16, so it was a round number, and it could be divided into bars a little bit better, but that's just the way it is with this device, so we have 15 to work with. All these pads are available to put a slice on, and you can ignore all the letters here when you're in this area. Just imagine that all of these in the grey area here are blank pads ready to put slices onto. So you have 2 options for slicing. You can either do it manually or you can do automatic. Now automatic only lets you do 1 setting, and that is a kind of threshold based slicing system. So you can press the bottom here and choose auto. You can choose your sensitivity using the A dial. So you can see there it goes to 10 all the way from 1. Let's say we did 5, and then you press A. That's going to go ahead and find a load of chops, so we can play around with these. There are all the things that it's found. I don't particularly like using that method. It's probably better for drums than it is for actual melodic samples. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all those using the clear button, and we're going to go to manual. So now we're in manual, you can actually just use the pads to play along with the sample and make the chop marks. You can also use the A dial as well. You can press it, but I much prefer to use the pads for beat makers like us. Obviously, that's a much more intuitive way of finding samples. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to cut this sequence a little bit short because copyright is so fragile here on YouTube. You can imagine what I'm doing. I'm just going along and choosing where I want the chops. So I'll be back in a little second to carry on after this. Okay, so you can see now on the screen I've got a bunch of chops. I've actually chosen 15, and I can go ahead in this area and preview all of them seamlessly, and they're in a mute group while we're in this area, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Okay, so we can use all these dials to manipulate these chops to how we want them. For example, you can zoom in with this dial like this, and look how far the zoom goes in. It's so useful. You can see pretty much everything on the waveform. You can move that around with B, so if you wanted to make an adjustment, you can see here I'm just adjusting that chop. You can add more chops there if you wanted to. You can select the different chops by pressing the pads. So I could go through and check all those pads and make sure they're in the position that I'd want. Let's move this one a little bit. You can see that this one's a bit out, so I'll adjust that. Okay, so I'm happy with all those chops now. So if we scroll out, we've got 15 chops. And what I'm going to do is press function and OK at the same time. What this does is it saves all those chop points to the sample. Now, I don't think you have to do this if you're just using it in one project, but I've got into the habit of doing it because I think basically what this does is every time you open this sample, say you start a new project and you open this sample, it will remember those chop points. So I'm going to go ahead and press function and OK, and it says save to, so you're saving the chop points to that sample. Press yes, that's done. Okay, so that's basically everything we need to do in that area. That's all the sample chopped up, and we're going to go ahead and go into the sort of playback area of the chops now, and to do that you use pad. So pad is how you get into the chops to play them back once you've done the work. If you've just got a single sample, pressing pad will take you into chromatic mode. So if you're using chops, it'll take you to chops. If you're using a sample, it will take you to chromatic mode. So we'll hit pad, and you can see here now we've got a brand new screen, and again the dials do certain things. So A is choke, and that's the first thing you need to do. I'm not on the latest software, so I don't know if there's been changes to this, but there's a couple of frustrating things here. One of them is you have to go through every single individual sample and assign it to a choke group. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. You basically use A, and you can see there I've selected 1. 1 has changed on the screen for that particular pad. Hit the second one, and then I change that to 1. Okay, so we're all good. We've got those all in one now. So as I was saying before, when you're previewing your chops, you're kind of in a mute group, but then you have to go and put it into a mute group here as well, or a choke group. And obviously now we can start looking for patterns, do whatever we want. We can start experimenting around and doing things like that. Now you can change the pitch, and this is one thing which I wish you could do once and apply it to all the pads. Like I say, there has been an update, so I don't know if this is in it or not, but changing the pitch of these is probably the only thing that I really don't like about this area. So you can change the pitch individually for every single chop. So let's go to this first chop here, and we can use dial C. You can see there's a C next to it, and you can do micro adjustments with the dial like this. You can see it's slowly either changing it up or down like that, or just change it back to 0. And to make bigger increments, you hold the dial down and turn it, and it does 100 at a time, you can see there. So if we do, let's say 800, you can hear there, we're getting a much different sound, a much lower sound, and obviously you can go the other way as well. So let's say about 500. Now I've looked in the manual, I've tried different key combinations, I can't find a way of doing that once and it applies to everything in the choke group. It'd be really good if that feature existed. So unfortunately, if you do want to repitch your sample, you have to go through and do each one individually. So I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll cut to when that's finished. Okay, I think that's done now, so you can hear now they're taking on a completely different sound. And when you lower the pitch on samples, I mean, it always sounds good, doesn't it? On this device especially, I think it sounds really nice. Okay, so that is essentially it, and you can do the same thing with the level if you wanted to as well. Now, the little secret which I was mentioning about, and this is one of my favourite things about this, is that these chops are non-destructive. So I can go back and edit these chops and move them around, and everything will be saved. So if I come out of the pad area and I go back into this area like this, we go back to slice, you can see here that all the chops are still on the screen. If we wanted to make any sort of adjustment, we can do. So let's say we adjust chop 2. Let's move that a little bit and just put it off that beat a little bit like that, just so you can hear. So now I've moved it slightly before that beat. Now if we go back into the pad area, we've hit pad again. There we go, it's moved that chop, so it's completely non-destructive. You can go back and edit things afterwards. Let's go and put it back to where we wanted it before. Zoom right in on that, and let's get it back to that point where it was on the beat. There we go. And then of course we could resave that as well if we wanted to, so I'll just save that, and then we hit pad again, and it's back to that point again. So I love that side of the chopping on this, is that you can go back, change things after the fact. Sometimes you just need to slightly nudge chops around and move their points a little bit, especially after you've repitched stuff, and get it lined up with your drums on your track. So I I really, really like that you can do that. You can do that on the MPC as well. That's one of the downsides of the SP404 Mark II. Once you've done the chops, that's it really. So yeah, I really like that side of it. And overall, I think that area is pretty damn powerful for this unit in general and very, very usable. In the future, I would love to see the ability to just add everything to a choke group in one go. So maybe you could hold function and just move the dial when you're doing that. And the same for pitch as well. Maybe you could hold function and use C and it would change everything in the bank. Hopefully that's an easy shortcut that can be implemented for both those things. Well, all three on this screen actually. So level, pitch and choke. It would be great to be able to do those things simultaneously to all the chops in the Mu group that you've got here. Like I say, I'm not on the latest version of the software, so maybe that is something that's been added, but I'm not so sure. So there we go guys, that is how you chop samples on the LOFI-12 XT, and I've been having a lot of fun with this device. There's still more videos I want to do about this. I know it's not quite as popular as my other videos, but I do think this device is really, really fun, and I want to show you kind of more of the workflow and how things work in future videos, so look out for those if you're interested in this device. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to check out spvids.com for all my merchandise and beat packs that support what I do here. All the links are in the description. It really is appreciated. Thank you to all of you who are picking up things. It really does go a long way. Apart from that, guys, keep making beats, and I'll be back with another video very, very soon.